What if I told you that your greatest strength will not be born from what you achieve, but from what you have the courage to lose? Somewhere, in the depths of your soul, there is a scale. On one side, everything you desire, peace, success, love, fulfillment. On the other, a weight you have not yet named, a part of you that must be surrendered to the fire so that the other can exist. This is the oldest secret of the human condition, the echo of the archetype of sacrifice. I'm not talking about the obvious losses, but about those that happen in silence, the comfort you sacrifice for discipline, the certainty you abandon for truth, the old you that must die so the new one can breathe. Do you feel this call? This silent tension that whispers that change demands a renunciation? Before we cross this portal together, make a conscious choice. This is not just another video. It is an invitation to an inner journey. By subscribing to the channel, you are not just clicking a button. You are declaring to yourself that you are ready to stop running from difficult truths. By leaving your like, you anchor the intention to transform your own pain into wisdom. And by commenting with the word surrender below, you commit to the first step, signaling to yourself and to this community that you are here to do the work. Do it now, because what comes next requires you to be fully present. You believe your choices are conscious, but the truth is, at every moment, you are a walking altar of invisible sacrifices. Your shadow, that part of you that you deny and hide in the darkness of the unconscious, is constantly making bargains in your name. It sacrifices your authenticity in exchange for acceptance, surrendering your genuine voice on the altar of social conformity to avoid rejection. It sacrifices your inner peace to feed the addiction of worry, believing that obsessive control can protect you from chaos. Think about your relationships. How many times have you sacrificed your own needs, your boundaries, your vital energy, not out of genuine love, but out of the absolute fear of abandonment? This is a sterile sacrifice, one that does not generate life, only a void that echoes with resentment. The shadow also sacrifices your potential. The fear of failure makes it surrender your greatest dreams on the altar of security, trading your soul's magnificent journey for a predictable, gray life. You call this prudence, but deep in the psyche, it is a betrayal. The first step of true initiation is not to choose what to sacrifice, but to illuminate what is already being given away without your permission. What parts of your essence are bleeding on the hidden altars of your fear? What dreams have you already surrendered in exchange for a comfortable cage? What do you sacrifice every day on the altar of routine, not to grow, but to remain the same? The pain you feel, that nameless anguish, is often nothing more than the silent scream of the sacrificed parts of your soul, demanding to be seen and rescued from the darkness. Before you offer something to the divine, you must stop feeding the demons that hide in your own shadow. Myths are not stories to put children to sleep. They are maps of the human soul, written in the blood of gods and heroes who dared to pay the price for evolution. Look at Prometheus, the titan chained to a rock, his flesh devoured every day by an eagle. His crime? Stealing the fire of the gods to give it to humanity. His sacrifice was not a punishment. It was the inevitable consequence of bringing the light of consciousness, the fire, into the darkness of matter. He sacrificed his freedom and his physical comfort so that humanity could awaken. Every time you choose the painful truth over the comfortable lie, you are Prometheus. You are chained to the rock of consequence, but you are nurturing the flame of consciousness in the world. Think of Odin, the All-Father, who journeyed to the well of cosmic wisdom, Brunner, where the guardian demanded a payment. Odin did not hesitate. He tore out his own eye and threw it into the well. He sacrificed his mundane sight, his perception of the superficial, to gain inner vision, the wisdom of the mysteries. What does this teach us? That to see what truly matters, you must be willing to become blind to what is trivial. What do you need to sacrifice? Your need to be right? Your limited view of yourself? Your perception of what is impossible? And then we have the phoenix, the ultimate symbol of the alchemy of sacrifice. It does not lose something, it gives everything. It builds its own nest of fire and immolates itself in flames, turning to ashes. It is the total sacrifice of the current self. Only from this complete annihilation, this absolute void, can it be reborn more glorious than before. The phoenix shows us that radical transformation does not happen with small reforms. It demands the courage to burn what you are to become what you can be. These myths echo within you because they are your story, your pain, your renunciation, your hope for rebirth. All of this has already been written in the stars and in the hearts of the gods. The psyche is a treacherous territory, and the line that separates the sacrifice that elevates from the self-sabotage that destroys is as thin as a razor's edge. True sacrifice is an act of power. It is a conscious choice to renounce something smaller, immediate pleasure, an inflated ego, a comfort zone for the sake of something greater, growth, wisdom, a soul's purpose. It expands your energy, even if it hurts. It is made from a place of self-love and a vision for the future. It is the athlete who gives up the party to rest for the competition. It is the student who forgoes leisure to acquire knowledge. The end result is the strengthening of the self. Self-sabotage, on the other hand, is an act of fear disguised as virtue. It originates from the shadow, from guilt, unworthiness, the need for punishment. It is the sacrifice that contracts, that drains your life force and leaves you resentful and bitter. It is the person who endlessly sacrifices in a relationship, not out of love, but from the dread of being alone. It is the professional who never accepts a raise, sacrificing their prosperity for a false humility that masks a deep sense of worthlessness. True sacrifice says, I give this up to become more. Self-sabotage whispers, I give this up because I don't deserve more. To discern between the two, look at the fruit. Genuine sacrifice, even if painful in the short term, eventually yields inner peace, strength, and a sense of alignment. Self-sabotage, even if it looks noble to others, generates a trail of exhaustion, frustration, and a persistent echo of why is life so unfair to me? The answer is brutally simple, because you are offering your energy on the wrong altar, feeding your fears instead of nourishing your soul. Stop asking yourself, what should I sacrifice? And start asking, in service of whom or what is this sacrifice? The answer to that question will either set you free or imprison you further. Destiny is not a lightning bolt that strikes from the heavens. It is a cathedral you build, stone by stone, with the silent sacrifices of each day. The modern world has taught you to seek the spectacular event, the instant transformation, the grand heroic renunciation. But the soul is like the earth. It does not respond to earthquakes, but to the constancy of rain and sun. Your true power lies on the altar of your routine. Every time you turn off the screen and open a book, you sacrifice the cheap dopamine of entertainment for the deep nourishment of knowledge. Every time you choose silence to meditate instead of drowning in the world's noise, you sacrifice distraction for inner connection. Every time you face a difficult conversation with honesty, instead of taking refuge in the convenience of omission, you sacrifice temporary peace for true intimacy. These acts are not glamorous. No one will applaud you for them. They are invisible rituals, performed in the solitude of your commitment to yourself. But it is the sum of these micro-sacrifices that creates the momentum for great change. A river cuts through the hardest rock not by its strength, but by its persistence. Likewise, your consistency in sacrificing the impulse of the moment in favor of your long-term vision is the force that will sculpt a new reality for you. Your future self is watching what you do today. Every small choice, every disciplined renunciation is a promise you make to them. Are you honoring that promise, or are you betraying your future potential in exchange for the insignificant comfort of now? Do not underestimate the power of the daily altar. It is there, in the sacred repetition of your choices, that you prove to the universe and to yourself that you are worthy of the destiny you claim to desire. Heroism is not in the mountain you climb, but in the steps you take when no one is watching. The psyche is an alchemical laboratory, and the most potent raw material for transmutation is not joy or success, but the raw pain of loss. When you experience a significant sacrifice, the loss of a love, a job, an identity, a dream, the ego interprets it as a catastrophe. It screams, it fights, it denies, but the unconscious, the vastest and wisest part of your being, sees a golden opportunity. Pain breaks the hardened shell of the ego, the defenses that kept you trapped in repetitive patterns. It is on the floor of this ruin that the true alchemical work begins. This initial pain, the heavy lead of anguish, is the prima materia. The unconscious then subjects it to fire calcinatio, which is the process of burning away the illusions, expectations, and attachments that cause the suffering. It is an infernal process, but a necessary one. Next comes solutio, the dissolution into tears, the total surrender to sadness, which washes and purifies the soul. Many people stop here, drowned in bitterness, but if you persevere, the unconscious guides you to coagulatio, where the purified elements of your experience begin to reform in a new and stronger way. The loss that was once an open wound now becomes a scar with a story. The pain that was unbearable transforms into compassion. The ignorance that led you to the fall is converted into wisdom. This is the birth of the lapis philosophorum, the philosopher's stone, which is not an external object but a state of consciousness, the ability to transform any suffering into spiritual gold. Your unconscious is not your enemy. It does not send you pain to punish you, but to refine you. It uses sacrifice as the goldsmith uses fire, to burn away the impurities and reveal the pure gold. That has always been within you. Your only task is to trust the process. Even when the laboratory is in flames and all you see is darkness, the gold is being forged. Beware of the sacrifice that announces itself, that puts on a show, that demands an audience. For this is not an act of the soul, but a performance of the ego. The martyr archetype is one of the most seductive and destructive shadows of the psyche. The martyr sacrifices not to grow, but to control. They use their pain as currency to manipulate others through guilt. Their favorite phrase is, "After all I've done for you." Their sacrifice is a hidden contract, an offer that comes with an implicit debt. They place themselves in the position of a perpetual victim because, in that place, they feel morally superior and exempt from the responsibility of creating their own happiness. True sacrifice is silent. It is a transaction between you and the cosmos. False sacrifice needs witnesses. It feeds on the pity, attention, and power that the position of the poor soul confers. It is a form of passive aggression, a war waged with sighs and self-pity. The martyr sacrifices their joy, their health, their dreams, and then blames the world, their partner, their family, for their unhappiness. It is the perfect ego trap. It gets to avoid the hard work of self-responsibility, while occupying center stage as the noble sufferer. To identify this shadow in yourself, observe your intentions. Are you renouncing something with a light heart, as an offering for a greater good? Or is there a hook, an expectation of recognition or reward? Do you feel expanded or depleted after the act? Do you tell others about your sacrifices, hoping for admiration or pity? The path of the martyr is a dead end paved with resentment. Liberation comes with the brutal honesty of admitting that perhaps your noble sacrifice is, in fact, your ego's most sophisticated way of refusing to grow, to be happy, and to allow others to be free. Nature abhors a vacuum, but the soul yearns for it. In our culture of accumulation and excess, we have been taught to fear emptiness. The blank space in the calendar, the silence in the room, the absence of a relationship. We rush to fill every crevice with noise, with tasks, with people, with anything to avoid confronting the nothingness. But this is one of the greatest spiritual misunderstandings. Sacrifice, in its essence, is an act of creating a sacred void. When you renounce an old habit, a limiting belief, a relationship that no longer serves you, you are not just losing something, you are deliberately creating a space. At first, this space is uncomfortable. It is the horror vacui, the fear of the void. The logical mind panics, trying to quickly fill it with the next distraction. But if you have the courage to remain in that nothingness, to inhabit the empty space, something miraculous happens. This void reveals itself not as a hole, but as a womb. It is the fertile void. It is the dark, rich soil where new seeds can germinate. You cannot plant a new forest on land already covered with weeds. You must first clear the field, sacrifice what is already there. Likewise, you cannot receive the new love, the new career, the new version of yourself, if all your internal space is emotional, mental, and energetic are cluttered with the old. The law is relentless. For the universe to give you something new, you must first show it that there is a place to receive it. Your act of renunciation is a powerful signal to the cosmos. It is a declaration that you are ready. It is your part of the divine agreement. Therefore, do not fear the void that follows a loss or a sacrifice. Honor it. Breathe in it. Protect it from your ego's frantic attempts to fill it prematurely. It is in that silence, in that sacred space, that the universe is whispering the instructions for your next chapter. Every great story, from Gilgamesh to Luke Skywalker, follows the same archetypal pattern, the hero's journey. And at the heart of each of these journeys, there is a moment of total sacrifice, a point of no return known as the symbolic death. The hero, to complete his mission and bring the elixir back to his tribe, must face his greatest ordeal, and in it, he must die. This is rarely a physical death. It is the death of his old self. It is the sacrifice of his previous identity, his limitations, his naive ego. It is the moment when the farm boy must sacrifice his innocence to become a warrior, when the prince must sacrifice his privilege to become a wise king, when the seeker must sacrifice his intellectual knowledge to achieve true enlightenment. This is the deepest point of the cave, the confrontation with the dragon, the descent into the underworld. It is here that the hero must renounce his most trusted tool thus far, his control. He must surrender to a higher power, trust the process, sacrifice the idea that he can win alone. It is the final surrender, and it is only after this symbolic death that the resurrection can occur. The hero emerges transformed, reborn, with a new understanding of the world and of himself. He is no longer the same person who began the journey. Your life reflects this pattern. Your greatest challenges, your dark nights of the soul, are your own descent into the cave. Life is asking you to sacrifice a part of yourself that can no longer accompany you into the next phase of your journey. Perhaps it is your victim identity, your attachment to security, your intellectual arrogance, or your need for approval. Whatever it is, the dragon you face is a part of yourself, and to defeat it, you do not need to kill it, but rather to sacrifice the part of you that feeds it. This is the necessary death. Without it, there is no rebirth. Without the sacrifice, there is no hero. The act of sacrifice does not end at the moment of renunciation. The journey is only complete when the loss is integrated, when that which was left behind is properly honored. Many people make the mistake, after a painful sacrifice, of trying to forget, to suppress the memory, to pretend the lost part never existed. This is like amputating a limb and refusing to do the physical therapy. The wound becomes infected, and the person is left permanently unbalanced. Integrating the loss is an act of spiritual maturity. It means looking back at what was sacrificed, be it a relationship, a dream, a version of yourself, and acknowledging its value. It means allowing yourself to grieve, to feel sadness, to long for it. Grief is not a sign of weakness, but the sacred process by which the psyche heals and reorganizes itself. To honor what was lost is to create an internal memorial. It is to recognize the lessons learned, the strength gained through that experience. It is to say, in silence, thank you. You were a part of my journey. I honor you, and now I release you. Without this closure, a part of your psychic energy will forever remain tethered to the past, like a ghost chained to the site of its death. You become bitter, nostalgic, resentful. You find yourself comparing the present to an idealized past, unable to fully embrace the new life that the sacrifice made possible. True integration happens when you can look at the scar not with pain, but with a silent reverence. The scar becomes a symbol, a map of your journey, a testament to your resilience. It proves that you were wounded, but that you survived, and more importantly, that you were transformed by the wound. Do not turn your back on the ghosts of your past. Talk to them, thank them, and then, and only then, will you be truly free to walk toward the future, not as an amputated survivor, but as a whole and integrated being. We now arrive at the summit of the mountain, at the sacrifice that lies behind all others. The journey of individuation, the great work of human life, culminates in a final act of renunciation, the surrender of the ego to the self. The ego is the center of your consciousness, the I you think you are. It is the captain of the ship, who has spent a lifetime fighting to maintain control, to chart the map, to navigate the storms. It is necessary, vital, but it is not the true center of your being. The self is the totality of the psyche, conscious and unconscious. It is the ocean upon which the ego's ship sails. It is the divine presence within, the ordering center that knows the true destiny of your soul. The ego's entire life is based on fear, separation, and the need for control. The language of the self is trust, unity, and surrender. The final sacrifice is the abdication of the ego as the absolute ruler. It is not the annihilation of the ego, but its deposition from the throne. It is the moment when the captain, after a long and exhausting journey, finally realizes that he does not need to control the ocean. He can, instead, learn to listen to its currents, to follow the call of the stars, to trust in the greater flow of life. He sacrifices his illusion of control to gain the freedom of surrender. He renounces his need to know to embrace the mystery. This is the most terrifying and most liberating act a human being can perform. It is what mystics call enlightenment, what Jung called individuation. It is the sacred marriage of the conscious and the unconscious. When the ego surrenders to the self, you stop fighting against life and start dancing with it. Your actions are no longer motivated by fear or desire, but by a deep sense of purpose that emanates from the center of your being. This is the sacrifice that gives you everything. You lose control and gain destiny. You lose your small identity and gain the universe.